Part 70. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 691. One of the warlords rolled up his sleeves and was about to take action. Okay, it doesn't matter if you committed the humming crime, it will make us crazy. I'll hum your grandma's legs. After saying that, he was about to kick him up, but he was stopped by other warlords with quick eyesight and quick hands. Damn it, don't do it. What if I get beaten to death? Yeah, it's not worth it, it's not worth it. Money is something external to oneself. Then give me your belongings. You can't keep talking like this. After a while of making noise, the trouble-making warlord also calmed down. In fact, he was just pretending and didn't dare to really beat people to death. Not long after, Nyokang was sent to the border by Mi Shazang with nutrient solution. Zhang Qiandan told him that the place of surrender was at the secret smuggling point on the border. After all, the current Nyokang was not suitable to be sent to Siam. Zhang Qiandan had already been waiting at the foot of the border mountain, looking at his watch anxiously. Ever since he knew that Nyokang had been taken care of, he rushed to the agreed-upon location without rest. It wasn't until 10 minutes later that I saw a green military vehicle driving far away from the mountain road. Before the military vehicle stopped, Mi Shuqiang jumped out of the vehicle in a hurry. Mr. Zhang, are you in a hurry? Mi Shuqiang quickly stepped forward to shake hands and say hello. Haha. I didn't wait long. Zhang Qiandan smiled and stretched out his hand to shake it. He was very satisfied with Mi Shuqiang's performance this time. He did not expect that Nyokang would be arrested just a few days after the arms arrived. This gave him a new understanding of the combat effectiveness of the Golden Triangle warlords, and it seemed that these people were not insignificant bandits. Where is Nyokang? Zhang Qiandan asked. In the car, Mr. Zhang. Follow me. Mi Shuqiang took Zhang Qiandan around half a circle to the carriage, and saw 2 rows of soldiers sitting and monitoring Nyokang. Nyokang was lying on a stretcher with a sling bottle, his face was so swollen that he could not see clearly. There was still a tied-up Eli curled up in the corner. Is this, Nyokang? Zhang Qiandan was stunned and pointed at Nyokang, who was a bit inhuman. It's definitely Nyokang. Mi Shuqiang patted his chest and said, my brothers spent a lot of time catching him, otherwise they would beat him until he was unable to fight back and still have to resist. Mi Shuqiang said that he had to make the arrest process more thrilling in order to leave a deep impression on Zhang Qiandan. Zhang Qiandan nodded, knowing that Mi Shuqiang didn't have the guts to lie to him, so he temporarily put aside his doubts about Nyokang's authenticity. Well done, I've already applied, and I'll give you a 92% discount when you buy arms from New World. Mi Shuqiang was overjoyed. The New World's arms were not only of good quality, but also very affordable. On this basis, he was given a 9.2% discount, and he was very satisfied. Although this 9.2% discount is inconspicuous, if you really put it on heavy weapons, it would be a huge discount. Director Zhang, thank you so much. Small remarks are not disrespectful. Mi Shuqiang put an emerald the size of a pigeon egg directly into Zhang Qiandan's hand. Such large and complete emeralds are extremely rare even in Lao Myanmar. Zhang Qiandan smiled and did not refuse Mi Shuqiang's kindness. He felt that Mi Shuqiang was a wonderful person. Last time he gave him a century-old precious medicinal material, and this time he gave him a rare emerald. Things are not valuable, they are just hard to find. Mr. Mi, New World is willing to cooperate with people like you, and we look forward to our next cooperation. Zhang Qiandan took the initiative to reach out his hand and shook Mi Shuqiang. This is the Siam New World Hotel phone number. If you need help, you can call this number. Thank you, Mr. Zhang. Mi Shuqiang's face was filled with a smile. This time he was really connected to the New World. Little did he know that it was this phone number that would save his life in the future. Of course, this was all a story later. After having someone carry Nyokang to the commercial vehicle that had been prepared, Mi Shuchang said goodbye to John Kyandan. He knew that John Kyandan still had important things to do, and he didn't dare to waste John Kyandan's time. Set off. John Kyandan got into the car and said to the driver. The younger brother stepped on the accelerator and drove towards the entrance of the secret passage. Snakes have their own passages, rats have their own passages, and those who do smuggling must have their own passages. Whether they are smugglers or arms smugglers, they all have their own skills to survive. This time, New World sent people into the country through a path explored by human snakes. After an arduous journey and climbing over 2 mountains, John Kyandan and others finally arrived in China. At this time, the sky was gradually getting dark. John Kyandan looked at the coordinates and said to the younger brother behind him, "Send a flare." This was something he had negotiated with his hometown. Once he went to a certain place and sent out a signal flare, someone would naturally respond. The red signal flare shot directly into the dark night sky. John Kyandan only heard some rustling sounds around him, and his brothers began to become alert, raising their guns in their hands to be on guard. "Who?" John Kyandan said in a deep voice. "I saw some Wu police officers wearing camouflage clothes rushing out from the surrounding grass with guns in their hands." The brothers under New World were not inferior at all, and without any panic, they directly protected John Kyandan and used the car as a cover to be careful and vigilant. "Is the person opposite Mr. John?" "I'm Lu Hai." Using the vehicle's headlights, John Kyandan looked in the direction of the sound and saw a middle-aged man in his 40s wearing a police uniform appearing not far away. He smiled and walked out from behind the car. "Bureau Lu." The man nodded. Although the two had never met, they had already talked on the phone and were familiar with each other. "Hello." "Hello." LV Hai was sincerely grateful to the people in New World. If it weren't for them, the Mekong River case would still be a mystery, and he would not have the face to face the families of the crew members who cried in front of him. Now that the main culprit Nyokang has been caught, it is not far from finding out the Mekong River case. John Kyandan saw that LV Hai was a little anxious and smiled. "Director Lu, Nyokang is in the car behind." LV Hai took 2 steps at a time and walked in the direction pointed by John Kyandan. "Open the car door," John Kyandan ordered. The car door was suddenly opened, and LV Hai looked at Nyokang in the car, wishing he could eat his flesh. Nyokang was more decadent than when he was in Mi Shuchang's hands, and his eyes stared at the roof of the car without life. His wrists and ankles were bandaged, and blood was still oozing out faintly. Lu Hai turned his head and looked at John Kyandan. "This. We know you have discipline. We have cut his tendons in his hands and feet in advance. The officials in the old country have discipline, but the New World does not. If the old country did not want Nyokang to live, he would have been chopped to pieces by the New World." Lu Hai did not speak, but patted John Kyandan's shoulder heavily. Even if he hated Nyokang to death, he could not do it, but John Kyandan vented his anger for him, which really touched him. Now Lu Hai understood the saying, "A good horse meets a good horse on a dangerous road, and a hero emerges from the grass." Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 692. "Mr. Zhang, thank you." Lu Hai took a step back and bowed deeply. "Bureau Lu, you can't do it." Just as John Kyandan was about to go up to help him, he was pushed away by Lu Hai. "Mr. Zhang, on behalf of the 23 crew members and their families, I would like to thank New World for its efforts." He didn't know how much effort New World had gone to find the murderer and catch Nyokang, but there must have been hardships that he didn't know about. His bow not only represents himself, but also represents the police uniform he is wearing. "Bureau Lu, I'm sorry. We people have a Chinese heart no matter where we go. This is what our eldest brother taught us. I have an errand in my hometown, so I will keep moving forward." John Kyandan said seriously. "Well. Lu Hai was moved to tears by Zhang Qiandan's words. Niukang was lifted out of the car. When he saw the unique police uniform of China, he knew that he had no hope of escaping. After Niukang was escorted to a special detention vehicle, Lu Hai and Zhang Qiandan said goodbye. At the moment before leaving, Lu Hai suddenly turned around and said, "Stop and salute." All police officers and soldiers saluted in the direction of Zhang Qiandan and others at the same time. This time they represented China's gratitude to the New World. Zhang Qiandan smiled, and with his brothers, he hit his chest with his left fist in return. Siam Border Province Military Camp, somewhere. The 5 people sat on their beds without saying a word. They were the illegal policemen from the Border Bureau involved in the Mekong River case. "Do you think they can keep us?" The they he meant was the Siamese military. "It should be possible. After all, we are Siamese." Apparently the person who spoke was not very sure. Letting them hide in the military camp is actually another means of protection. "Damn it, we don't want to either. Ugh, it's all because of this piece of shit Connor." Some people began to collapse. They had been in the military camp for several days and had never left the room. Except for meals being delivered on time, no one came to see them, as if they had been forgotten. This kind of life is no different from going to jail. The most devastating thing is that they don't know what to do with them in the future. Bang! The iron door of the room was suddenly opened, and a senior colonel officer came out. "Palava, are you okay?" Everyone looked at Palava sleeping on the bed in surprise. Palava sat up from the bed. "You are finally here, Brother Basil. If I weren't your humming cousin-in-law, I wouldn't bother to care about you." Base glanced at Palava with disdain. If his wife hadn't begged him desperately, he wouldn't have wanted to interfere with this distant relative's affairs. Helpless, his wife controls his lifeline, so sometimes he still has to give her some face. The other black police officers instantly understood that they were protected by the military camp only because of Palava. What they didn't expect was that Palava had such a relationship and was able to waste so many years on the border. But when I looked back and thought about Palava's virtue, I realized that this man was a duh who couldn't be helped. The senior colonel in front of him wanted to help him, but he probably also had to consider whether he would cause trouble. "Brother Base, it's really not me who is causing trouble this time," Pilawa cried sadly. Although he is usually a bit unreliable, he was indeed passively involved in the Mekong case. Base obviously knew this and didn't scold him much. Seeing that Base's anger was fading, Pilawa stepped forward with a playful smile. "Brother Base, how is the situation outside? Please tell me." Others also pricked their ears and listened attentively. Base glanced at him. "I can still protect you for the time being, but according to reliable information, both Connor and Nyokang were arrested." The expressions of the criminal police officers suddenly changed. When they came in, Connor had just been arrested. Unexpectedly, in a short period of time, even Nyokang was arrested. Others don't know, but these people have been dealing with Nyokang all year round and know Nyokang's situation relatively well. Nyokang has a lot of trump cards. It stands to reason that unless a large-scale force is deployed, it is impossible to be caught so easily. "Brother Basil, how did you get caught?" Base also frowned, feeling that this matter was strange. As far as he knew, this was the first time that the Golden Triangle warlords had joined forces to fight a drug lord. "It was precisely because of my confusion that I wanted to come to Palava to find out the situation." "You, besides killing the crew, who else have you offended?" Base frowned and looked at the black police officers. No. It seems not. We were all coerced by Connor." Several people recalled the details of the crime, but their brains were short-circuited and they didn't think about who they had offended. Base was a little annoyed by the voices of several people. "Forget it, you stay here first, and then go out after the wind has passed." "Brother Base, when can we go out?" Pilawa asked. Base sneered. You'd better pray that there is no big force behind this to pursue this matter. If there is, I can't protect you. Even though Bass has the final say in the border camp, he is still far from reaching the top ranks of the military. If he really couldn't handle it, he would definitely hand over these people. After all, he can't affect his future by helping others, right? Bass didn't even bother to say hello to them and walked out of the room. As soon as he walked out of the room, the black policemen surrounded Pulawa and flattered him. After all, they knew who to flatter in the territory of his cousin's husband. Colonel Bass, General Apeng is on the way. The deputy hurried to Bass and whispered. Who? General Apeng. Bass was a little surprised. General Apeng's promotion in recent years can be called a miracle. He grew from an unknown grassroots soldier to a general. Especially in the past 10 years, it was like riding a rocket, and his position rose swooping. Now he is a senior military official, and is especially favored by the King of Siam. The whole country knows that he is the direct descendant of the King of Siam. Where is the general? Bass adjusted his military uniform while walking. His joy was beyond words. This time he had to perform well and get in touch with General Apeng, so that he could cross the hurdle between Colonel and Major General. It's almost half an hour to the barracks. Let the soldiers line up to welcome. Half an hour later, Apeng got off the bulletproof car and looked at the big sun above his head. The purpose of his visit this time was very clear, that is, to learn about the recent actions of the New World. Through the analysis of the Intelligence Department, he learned that the New World had been involved in the Mekong River case. And he also accidentally learned that someone in the military sheltered the black police involved in the Mekong River case. Over the years, he has been in contact with Li Cheng. As Li Cheng and the military of the United States became good friends, he also got a lot of light, so his status in the heart of the King of Siam became higher and higher. The moment he learned about this, he realized that this was a great opportunity to sell Li Cheng a favor. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 693. Salute. The middle-level officers and above in the military camp formed two teams and stood in front of the car. Bass shouted loudly as soon as he saw Apeng get off the car. Apeng saluted casually and walked over slowly. General. Bass took a few quick steps and walked forward with a flattering smile. Although he didn't know why Apeng suddenly inspected the border military camp, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. Yes. Apeng hummed and continued to inspect the military camp under the leadership of Bass. The entire military camp also attached great importance to Apeng's arrival. The soldiers stood in line one by one and looked at the general. Let them all go to training. What are they doing here? Apeng waved his hand with a frown. He didn't come to inspect the military camp in the first place, and now with so many people, it was even more difficult to tell Bass his real purpose. Bass was not an ordinary soldier after all. He heard impatience in Apeng's words, disband, go back to training. The playground, which was just crowded, was empty of soldiers within a few minutes. Only the top brass of the military camp and Apeng and others were left. Paxi, I heard that you have been doing well recently, Apeng said to Pasek with a smile. Pasek was delighted when he heard this. Is it really General Apeng who saw my ability and came to inspect me? Thank you for the praise, General. It is my dream to build a strong border army for Siam. I want to be like you. The 25th unit you built back then still stands on the border like a copper wall and iron wall. The flattering words came out of Pasek's mouth without saying a word. He had heard that General Apeng was most proud of building the elite 25th unit. Apeng glanced at him sideways. Oh? Really? If you lie, I will strike you with thunder. Pasek looked at AI Peng with a firm look. Okay, then I will ask you to go to the Central 32nd Division, will you go? AI Peng said teasingly. Oh my god, General, where are you talking about? Paxi, who was about to speak without even thinking, suddenly changed his face when he heard the 32nd Division. In Siam, even civilians knew the 32nd Division's morals. XQ, abuse of newcomers, and high mortality rate were the three main characteristics of the 32nd Division. Some soldiers even knew that they were assigned to the 32nd Division and took a smuggling boat to Africa overnight, even giving up their Siamese nationality. At this time, Paxi was just muttering in his heart. It seemed that General AI Peng was here to cause trouble this time. He was very scared. AI Peng wanted to kill him, which was easier than killing an ant. 32nd Division, are you going? AI Peng looked at Paxi with a fake smile. The officers who were close heard what General AI Peng said, and took a step back in unison, indicating that they were not in the same group as Paxi and did not want to be implicated. Bass had no time to care about them now, and begged in a low voice, General, I have a precious goldfish, it's in my office, please move. AI Peng didn't say anything, just nodded, and walked slowly forward. He came to Bass's office, and Bass blocked other officers. Ahem, don't you have anything else to do? Disband. The senior officers in the barracks didn't say anything when they heard the voice, and dispersed as ordered. General, I have something to report to you alone, you see. Bass looked at AI Peng in embarrassment, and then cast his eyes on AI Peng's entourage. AI Peng sat in the main seat and waved his hand, and the entourage followed him out the door, but did not stay far away to protect AI Peng. Bass closed the door carefully and came to AI Peng. With a thump, Bass knelt on the ground. General, if there is anything wrong with my subordinates, you can punish them. If someone said that he would be transferred to the 32nd Division, he would definitely not believe it, but AI Peng wanted to transfer him to the 32nd Division, which was just a matter of words. Once he joined the 32nd Division, there would be no way for him to be promoted forever. Everyone knows that no one from the 32nd Division can be promoted to Major General. If the 32nd Division appears on a person's resume, damn, his reputation will be ruined. Haha, Bass, you are very brave. AI Peng crossed his legs and looked down on Bass. Bass was even more terrified when he heard this. He didn't know where he had offended General AI Peng. Bang bang bang, Bass kowtowed several times, and even a red mark appeared on his forehead. Okay. Seeing Bass like this, AI Peng also felt a little bored. I tell you, Mr. Li Qing of the New World and I are close friends. Li Qing? Bass was a little surprised to hear this name in his mind. General AI Peng was actually a good friend of Li Qing of the New World. No wonder the New World's power in Siam is unmatched. It turns out that the New World has such a big backer in Siam. If the top people knew Bass's thoughts, they would definitely laugh their heads off. But this can't be blamed on Bass. After all, he was born in the lower class and didn't squeeze into that circle. Some things were guessed and guessed, so it was understandable that there were such things that went in the opposite direction. Bass suddenly thought that General AI Peng would not say the sentence for no reason. He should be hinting at something. Li Qing? New World? Bass frowned. He seemed to have nothing to do with the New World. Oh, no. He suddenly remembered the recent news about the New World. The New World was involved in the Mekong River case. The Mekong River case? Pilawa. Damn, the sky is falling. He never expected that just sheltering a few black policemen would bring him such a big disaster. But Bass's ability to grow up to be a major general in Siam is not without merit. General, Bass raised his head and looked at AI Peng. AI Peng was startled by Bass's loud voice and was about to scold him. General, I caught a few black policemen who wanted to smuggle out of the country at the border. Because the matter was not investigated clearly, they have been imprisoned in the military camp. Do you think you should report this matter to the government? Bass sold Pillawa very thoroughly. It has come to this point. It is more important to save his own dog life. AI Pen nodded with satisfaction. In his opinion, Bass is still very smart. At least he understands it at a glance, and he is also very shameless. It is obvious that he took people to the military camp for protection, but now it has become an arrest of smugglers. The most important thing is that he asked me whether I should report it to the government. Obviously, he has understood what he meant. That's interesting. You arrange it? I want to meet these people, AI Peng said with a smile. Bass was overjoyed. It seems that he has passed this level at the moment. Okay, General, please wait. Bass walked out of the office, his face immediately became serious, and whispered to his deputy, "Beat those black police half to death, make them dirty." Then a trace of viciousness flashed in his eyes. "By the way, cut off Pillawa's tongue for me." The deputy looked at Bass in surprise. Others didn't know, but he knew that Pillawa was the cousin of Bass's wife. Bass had no choice. He couldn't let Pillawa talk nonsense. General Apeng obviously knew something, and this kind of thing couldn't be exposed. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 694. AI Peng looked at the half-dead black policeman with satisfaction, and pointed at Pillawa, whose tongue had been cut and whose mouth was full of blood. "How did this happen?" "I accidentally bumped into it and bit my tongue." Bass smiled awkwardly. AI Peng glanced at him with a smile, but did not pursue the matter. As long as these people were alive, he didn't care whether they had broken hands or feet. "Take them away." AI Peng waved his hand, and his followers immediately took the black policemen from the soldiers and dragged them onto the military vehicles that had been prepared. "Bass, you are good." AI Peng patted Bass on the shoulder with appreciation. Bass immediately straightened up and saluted AI Peng. He didn't breathe a sigh of relief until AI Peng's car disappeared. This time it was really too dangerous. If he didn't understand what General AI Peng meant, the consequence would be to go to the 32nd Division to live a lazy life. As soon as he got home in the evening, he saw his wife standing in the entrance hall waiting for him with a sullen look. Bass knew at a glance that his wife knew everything. It seemed that someone in the military camp had tipped her off. "Tell me, where is my cousin?" "He was taken away," Bass said confidently. "Well, my aunt only has this one son, and you didn't save him." "Woo woo." The woman began to cry, make a scene, and even hang herself. The crying made Bass a little irritated, and he yelled, "Stop crying." The woman stopped crying abruptly. Bass had never yelled at her like this before, as she was always obedient to him. "General Apeng went to the military camp in person just for your cousin and the others." Bass explained. "Who? AI Peng? The one who's on TV all day?" Bass nodded. "I've got in touch with General AI Peng this time, and I'm not far from the rank of Major General." When the woman heard this, she grinned with her mouth wide open. "Really? 90% sure?" The woman felt that at this moment, cousins and brothers were not important. If her man was promoted to Major General, her life would be more luxurious. "Well." The woman walked to Bass with a cat-like step. "Husband." "What?" Bass felt that he could finally act cool in front of his wife. "I have 2 cousins and 3 cousins." Bass. AI Peng, Li Qing, who was still in Gotham at this time, received a call from AI Peng. "Haha, Li Qing, it's been a long time since we last contacted." AI Peng laughed when he heard Li Qing's voice. Li Qing also curled his lips and teased, "General AI Peng, what makes you so happy?" "Hee, I have the person you want." Li Qing raised his eyebrows when he heard this, Oh, the person I want? Your female soldiers. He remembered the last time he went to Siam and was entertained by Ai Peng. Ai Peng rolled his eyes. The female soldiers he entertained Li Qing last time were carefully selected. Unexpectedly, Li Qing didn't like any of them. Didn't your new world get involved in the Mekong River case recently? Well, what happened? Li Qing was also a little curious. Zhang Qiandan had already reported the Mekong River case to him, and Nyokong and Connor were sent back to their hometowns. Is there something he doesn't know? There are still a few fish that slipped through the net, hidden in the military camp, and I accidentally found them. Ai Peng also kept it a secret and said directly. Oh? There are still some fish that slipped through the net. Li Qing thought about it and understood the matter. It's not that the old family didn't know these people, but they were protected by the Siamese military, and the old family couldn't ask the military directly for them. Do you owe me a favor this time? Ai Peng said with a smile. The two have been in contact for many years, and even often discussed some international situations in Southeast Asia together, so the two have long become close friends. Forget it, forget it. Li Qing smiled and shook his head, laughing at Ai Peng for being a little childish. By the way, I heard some news, I don't know if it's useful to you. Ai Peng suddenly remembered that Li Qing mentioned the northern waters of Xiao Rizi when they chatted last time, and he happened to hear the relevant news. Oh? Tell me, Li Qing stood up with interest. Since it can enter Ai Peng's ears, it must not be a small matter. Ai Peng lowered his voice. Xiao Rizi sent people to Siam to secretly contact the top and asked us to support their sovereignty over Sakhalin Island internationally. Li Qing heard Sakhalin Island, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Because Sakhalin Island is also known as Sakhalin Island. Since the last nuclear power plant leak, the area near Fukushima in Japan is no longer suitable for human survival. Japan is originally a country with a small land area and a large population. The nuclear explosion caused a large number of citizens to go north or south to survive, making the whole Japan even more crowded. They can only seek places outside the country. To the south is the endless sea. Only Sakhalin Island in the north is the only place they can fight for survival. Moreover, Sakhalin Island is controversial in the first place, and the proportion of Japanese descendants on Sakhalin Island is increasing. The top leaders of Japan have directly set their sights on Sakhalin Island. But Japan is not the Japan before World War II. Without its own independent army, they have to seek support from the international community. They want to put pressure on Russia at the level of public opinion, and then slowly take it step by step. Well, interesting, I get it. Remember to send people to the border, there will be people there to receive them. Li Qing smiled after hearing Ai Peng's words. The two chatted for a few more words about the situation in Southeast Asia before hanging up the phone. After hanging up the phone, Li Qing's expression immediately became serious. He felt that maybe he was born to be incompatible with Xiao Zizi. Every time he liked something, Xiao Zizi would jump out and grab it. No. It should be said that all Chinese people have an innate hatred for Xiao Sheng. And the big-haired Emperor Pu is also dishonest. It is estimated that Dai Mao's think tank had already thought of the situation in Zaire when the nuclear explosion occurred in Zaire. No wonder, Li Qing still wonders how generous Emperor Pu is. He doesn't want such a large piece of land, and his feelings are waiting for him here. 2 peaches kill 3 people? What a brilliant idea. Crow Crow and Zhang Dongzhou not far away secretly glanced at the face of their elder brother Li Qing, not even daring to take a breath. The two of them follow Li Qing every day, so of course they know what it feels like when their elder brother is angry. The eldest brother smiled more and more, but when there was no smile in his eyes, he was really angry. Okay, 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 Li Qing laughed. Wu Wu and Zhang Dongzhou looked at each other and stepped up to quietly walk out of the room. Huh? Where do you want to go? Crow and Zhang Dongzhou felt the cold voice of their elder brother Li Qing coming from behind. Brother, I ate too much fruit and got diarrhea, Zhang Dongzhou said hurriedly, covering his stomach. I ate too much croton, I pooped. Crow stammered. 5 more nonsense, Li Qing walked out without giving him a chance to explain his reasons. Wu Wu and Zhang Dongzhou walked towards the ring in the gym, their faces full of resistance. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 695. Zhang Dongzhou and Wu Wu collapsed on the ring panting, sweat from their hair dripping down the protective gear. Although he was wearing protective gear all over his body, he still felt that the blows from his elder brother were very painful, and the force was a bit unbearable even for a person of Zhang Dongzhou's weight. Get up, it's only been 5 minutes and you can't do it, Li Qing touched his gloved hands and said with a smile. Brother, let us go. If it can't be done, call Gao Jin and Gishan, they are more flexible. Crow gasped and flattered. He knew that his elder brother Li Qing had already restrained his strength, but he really couldn't bear it. He felt like he had suffered internal injuries from the force. Yes, a Jin can do it, Zhang Dongzhou's dead Taoist friend Buletin Dai Ping Tao agreed. Li Qing took off his boxing gloves boredly. Now that he had calmed down, Emperor Pu had set a trap for him. Then he will get in and see if Emperor Pu's rope is strong enough, Let's go, stop pretending, Li Qing said with a smile. He knew how hard he had used it, and there was no big problem with these two people. Sure enough, the two of them wiped off their sweat and stood up with a smile. If they didn't pretend to be more similar, they would get beaten more. Not long after, Li Qing received a call from Qi Gang. Brother Li, I really want to thank you for this major Mekong case. If it hadn't been for a long time, it would have been solved in less than 2 months. Li Qing smiled. According to the historical trajectory, it would take at least 2 years to solve the major Mekong case, and it would take even longer for Nyokang to be brought to justice. In the end, the criminal police officers escaped legal sanctions under the protection of Siam. This was the only unsatisfactory part of the previous Mekong case. Brother Qi, you're welcome. This is what a Chinese should do, Li Qing replied with a smile. Brother Li, the Ministry of Public Security also said that they would award you a medal. Before Qi Gang finished speaking, he was interrupted by Li Qing. Brother Qi, I don't want medals or anything else. I really want to apply for something from my hometown. Li Qing's words made Qi Gang stunned, because Li Qing had never asked for any compensation from the country before, and he paid completely voluntarily. The sudden request made Qi Gang a little happy and uneasy. I am happy that I finally have a chance to make up for Brother Li, but I am worried that I will not be able to meet the demands made by Brother Li. After all, in his opinion, the country could give Brother Li too little. Brother, if you need anything, just ask. Even if I can't do it, I will actively fight for you. Qi Gang patted his chest and said seriously. A smile flashed in Li Qing's eyes. In fact, this idea also came to his mind when he was boxing with Zhang Dongzhou and Wu Wu. Since Emperor Pu wants to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and let himself and Zai conflict on Sakhalin Island, then that's what he wants. Whether it is 2 birds, or a bird and an eagle, it depends on the strength of each. With Li Qing's existing resources, it is not impossible to compete with Little Japan. I want nuclear weapons. Hearing Li Qing's words, Qi Gang opened his mouth in surprise. He never expected that Brother Li would want nuclear weapons. He really couldn't make the decision on this matter. Such a major matter must be decided by the committee, and it cannot be said openly. But he did not hesitate and said directly, "Don't worry, Brother Li, I will report this matter and I will definitely give you an answer as soon as possible." Brother, let me say one more thing, why do you want nuclear weapons? Qi Gang was afraid that Li Qing would use nuclear weapons to cause trouble. Looking at his young life, he knew that once nuclear weapons exploded, it would be a disaster for mankind. Li Qing also knew what Qi Gang meant. Haha, don't worry, brother Qi. The greatest effect of nuclear weapons is to deter, and I know that. The matter on Sakhalin Island has not yet been settled, and he does not intend to tell it now. Oh, that's good, that's good. How many do you want? At least 2. Li Qing had carefully considered the need for 2 nuclear bombs. This number would not make Shang Sanchang feel threatened, but would also have a great deterrent effect on other countries. Sure, I will report it as soon as possible. By the way, Lu Hai has said several times that he will thank you very much when you come back next time. The two chatted for a few more words before hanging up the phone. After Li Qing hung up the phone, he turned to Zhang Dongzhou and Crow and said, "Get ready to go to Moscow. It's time to talk to Emperor Pu." He did what Emperor Pu asked him to do. It's time for Li Qing to go to Daimao to get his remuneration. Kremlin, Office of the President. It was late at night and the lights were still brightly lit in Emperor Pu's office. Great Emperor, there are still a few months until the referendum on Croton Island. This time it should be a sure thing, the Minister of the Interior whispered beside him. Well, Emperor Pu did not raise his head and looked at a large map of Daimao seriously. The Minister of the Interior had a look of hesitation on his face and said cautiously, "The Emperor, there are many people who have opinions on the resolution of Sakhalin Island and believe that it should not be sold to private individuals." Upon hearing this, Emperor Pu took off his gold-rimmed glasses and raised his head. "Krovsky, what do you think?" The Minister of the Interior was silent for a moment. "I believe in your decision and firmly support your decision. You will not harm the national interest." Krovsky has followed Emperor Pu for nearly 20 years and knows his character very well. Emperor Pu's wish is just to reproduce the glory of the bear. He has been working hard in this direction, and the decision on Sakhalin is definitely not a traitorous move. Sigh, many people don't understand why I want to sell Sakhalin to Li Xin. Emperor Pu sighed. In his opinion, Sakhalin Island was worthless. It was a pity to abandon it because it was tasteless and could not be compared with the strategic position of the island. The most important thing is that the Omao people are not willing to settle on Sakhalin Island. As a result, more and more people are fleeing from Hokkaido. If this continues, Sakhalin will be occupied by the people sooner or later. Mao's control over Sakhalin will also exist in name only. Many people in China are opposed to the sale of Sakhalin Island, thinking it is an act of treason. Does anyone know that Sakhalin Island was a territory of the Qing dynasty that was robbed by Tsarist Russia? Of course Krovsky knew what Emperor Pu was thinking. "Emperor, what should we do?" Emperor Pu smiled and said, "Starting from tomorrow, we will no longer prevent people from smuggling into Sakhalin Island." What he wants is this result. This matter has been predicted by the think tank a long time ago. Only Sakhalin Island, which is constantly in disputes, is in the interests of Mao. These days people should be enough to give Li Qing a headache. At least through ordinary peaceful means, there is no way to let these little people leave. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 696. Coming to Moscow again, Li Qing not only lamented revisiting his old place, but he also had more than a little connection with Daimao and Mao. Sneeze. Crow sniffed. He was still a little unaccustomed to such cold weather. "Dongzhou, lean on me. Get away." Zhang Dongzhou pulled away Crow's hand in disgust. Li Qing was not in a hurry to see Emperor Pu this time, so he did not specifically notify him. There are other things to do. Since Emperor Pu is plotting against him, given his character, if he doesn't return it, he will leave his inner demons behind. Let's go. Li Qing took the lead and walked towards the Rolls-Royce that was already waiting for him. Brother. Tian Yangsheng and others hurriedly walked towards Li Qing and others. They had been waiting at the airport for more than an hour. Well, long time no see, Ah Sheng. Are you guys okay? Haha, brother, Mao Dong has gained weight all over. They had grown up in Siberia and were used to such weather. If Tian Yangsheng and others were allowed to live in Xiangjiang, they would not be used to it. Oh, isn't this a crow? Why is it wrapped so tightly? Tian Yangsheng looked at the crow and joked with a smile. Crow rolled his eyes. He was used to being laughed at every time he went to Da Mao and Er Mao. Zhang Dongzhou also stepped forward and hugged Tian Yangsheng and others. The group drove directly to New World's stronghold in Moscow. It wasn't until he arrived at the presidential suite prepared by Tian Yangsheng and others for his eldest brother Li Qing that Wu Yao felt that his body was getting warmer. How's it going? Ah Sheng, is there any movement here? Li Qing took off his coat and handed it to Tian Yangsheng. Tian Yangsheng patted the falling snow on it and carefully hung it on the hanger. Brother, everything is going well in business. We have added some machine tools specifically for making some heavy weapons. Tian Yangsheng made a detailed report to Li Qing on New World Group's arms manufacturing business during this period. In addition to business, the scale of mercenaries has also grown, and at least they have gained some reputation in Eastern Europe. Has there been any change in the international situation in Eastern Europe? Especially between Da Mao and Er Mao? Li Qing asked softly. What he wanted to know most was what happened to Da Mao recently, but he did not receive any useful information from his channels. But something can be discovered from some small details and even complaints among people. When Tian Yangsheng saw his eldest brother asking, he didn't dare to neglect what happened to Da Mao and Er Mao recently in his mind. Brother, there is one thing that I think is a bit strange, although it's not a big deal. Li Qing glanced at him and smiled. Tell me about it. Recently, it was discovered that some big-haired gangsters went to K Island for vacation together. Tian Yangsheng scratched his head. Although he didn't know why this happened, he felt it was quite strange. One or two can be said to be a coincidence, but 6 or 7 organizations all went to K-Dao. Could it be that they were going to hold a martial arts conference? Li Qing frowned when he heard this. This thing is really strange. Going to K Island for vacation in such a cold weather? And it's still Kejima. He suddenly realized that this might be Emperor Pu's preparation for Kejima GT. Haha, it seems that he has already taken action. Tian Yangsheng was stunned when he heard his elder brother Li Qing's words. He didn't understand who his elder brother was talking about was. It's okay, prepare dinner. We won't get home tonight until we get drunk, Li Qing said to Tian Yangsheng with a smile. Tian Yanji and others nodded excitedly when they heard this. They hadn't met Crow and Zhang Dongzhou for a long time. Li Qing waved his hand towards Zhang Dongzhou and Wu Wu. You guys should also go and help while I take a rest. Zhang Dongzhou and Wu Wu smiled and nodded. This is New World Station in Daimao, so they don't have to worry about safety. After everyone walked out, Li Qing stopped smiling, picked up the phone and dialed Ike's number. There are only 2 people who are familiar with Li Qing in Ermao, one is Renikov and the other is the big oligarch Ike. There is no doubt that Renikov is a member of Emperor Vladimir Putin. As for Ike, although Ike didn't say anything, Li Qing knew that he had Hebrew ancestry. Judging from Ike's past behavior, it was almost certain that he was from the Hebrew consortium. So there are no permanent friends in this world, only eternal interests. A few years ago, some time ago, Li Qing had some conflicts with the Hebrew consortium in the beautiful country. After all, he sided with Angsa, but now he wants to use the Hebrew consortium to make Emperor Pu unhappy. They are just holding each other back. Who wouldn't be like that? You, Emperor Pu, are not honest in your actions. I, Li Qing, can also do some small tricks to make you feel uncomfortable. Hello? Cheng. Ike's voice came from the phone. Ike, no contact for a long time. Hey, are you here, Ermao? Where are you? I'm going to find you. Ike said excitedly. Although the two hadn't seen each other for a long time, Ike's tone showed that his attitude towards Li Qing had not changed much. Even knowing that Li Qing sided with the Angsa group did not affect the friendship between the two. Haha, I'm not in Ermao, I'm in Damao. Ike on the other side of the phone curled his lips. Why did you go there? It's business, Li Qing said with a smile. Your main business now is to come to Ermao and see my newly trained horse, Ike laughed. I heard some news about K Island. Do you want to hear it? Li Qing pretended to be mysterious. K Island. When he heard about K Island, Ike suddenly became serious. The strategic position of K Island is obvious to any fool. Hebrew is also coveting K Island. Moreover, they are secretly carrying out the color revolution in Ermao, and taking K Island is also an important part of it. Suddenly, when he heard Li Qing say that there was news about K Island, his heart was also snapped. What news? Li Qing raised his mouth. It seems that Hebrew did not notice the actions of the great emperor. A large number of Damao gangsters have purposefully sneaked into K Island. I wonder if they are going to cause trouble. Gangsters? Damao? K Island? Ike frowned. What is the connection between these three? I can't guess. Ike scratched his head. Li Qing rolled his eyes. Forget it, anyway, I've already told you, I'm going to Ermao in a few days, remember to prepare the horse. He hung up the phone without waiting for Ike to speak. The conversation has come to this point, and Ike still doesn't understand, and there is nothing he can do. But he believes that Ike will definitely report this matter, and naturally there will be smart people who will find out the trick. Dong dong dong. Li Qing just put down the phone and heard a knock on the door. Come in. Tian Yangsheng hurried in. Brother, President Putin's guards came to convey the message that Emperor Putin wants to invite you to a dinner. Li Qing nodded after hearing this. Humph, the KGB is really powerful. Ah Sheng, it seems that we can't have dinner today. It wasn't long after getting off the plane, and Emperor Putin knew about it. It seems that he was also on the list of key concerns of Emperor Putin. Let's go meet Emperor Putin. Li Qing's eyes condensed and he stood up suddenly. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 697. With the police leading the way, the car soon arrived at the Kremlin. Putin showed great respect for Li Qing's arrival and stood in front of the office door waiting. Haha, Li Qing, we meet again. Putin took the initiative to extend his hand. Mr. President, long time no see. Li Qing smiled and stepped forward, tightly shaking Putin's hand. Although the two looked warm on their faces, they actually had their own thoughts in their minds. Come on, sit inside, Putin made a gesture of invitation. Come on. Li Qing said with a smile. Walking into Putin's office, Li Qing looked around and found that it was no different from the last time he came, except that there was an extra rolled-up map. I have to thank you again this time. I have received the attitude of the Ansa group. Putin smiled while sitting on the sofa. Haha, no need, who in the world doesn't know to be honest to Mr. President? Li Qing also laughed. The meaning behind the words was clear, I did what you asked, and you should give me my reward. Putin understood immediately and just smiled faintly, I will do what I promised you. But I still need some time. You know, there are still our Russians and troops on Sakhalin Island, and they need to be properly resettled. After hearing what Putin said, Li Qing's eyes condensed. He saw Putin's intention to delay time. Oh? Is there any difficulty in resettling these people and troops? I can help. At this time, Li Qing had put away his smile and asked seriously. Well, the army is easy to say, but the resettlement of the people requires financial allocation. Li Qing didn't wait for Putin to finish his words and said directly, it doesn't matter. New World happens to have some spare money. It can lend them interest-free loans, or even interest-free loans to the Russian government. Who want to use money to delay the transaction time. Even if Li Qing loses some money, he must get Sakhalin Island as soon as possible, so as not to have more trouble. When Putin heard this, a trace of embarrassment flashed across his face. Li Qing, you know, selling Sakhalin to a private person puts me under a lot of pressure. Some people in the country are beginning to be dissatisfied with my decision, and you need me to coordinate this matter as much as possible. A trace of solemnity flashed across Li Qing's eyes. It seems that Putin really wants to delay to the end. He is sure that Putin's actions on Sakhalin are tricky. The amount of information is too little now, and he can't analyze Putin's intentions for the time being. But what is certain is that he must not be allowed to delay, otherwise Sakhalin will be like a cooked duck. Oh? Mr. President, can you tell me which officials they are? Maybe, I can convince them. Li Qing tried with a smile on his face. When Putin saw Li Qing pressing step by step, his expression became more and more ugly. He didn't expect that Li Qing would be so difficult. Not even giving him a chance to delay, in his plan, the number of people who delay Sakhalin for 1 or 2 months will reach an unimaginable level. When the deal is completed and he withdraws his troops and the people of Russia, Li Qing will definitely have a conflict with the Japanese people on Sakhalin Island. At that time, the Japanese government will definitely intervene, and the United States behind Li Qing is likely to remain neutral. After all, the forces of the United States are divided into ANSA and Hebrew. Li Qing has offended the Hebrew consortium, and they will not give up the Japanese and support the New World. But China, another supporter hidden behind Li Qing, will definitely intervene. At that time, the two most powerful countries in East Asia will clash and divert international attention. Take the opportunity to take over K Island. If it is possible to further eliminate the opposition forces of Urmao, then the rear will be stable. It must be said that Putin's plan is flawless, if he really goes according to his ideas. The result is likely to be what he predicted: China and the Japanese are at odds, East Asia is in chaos, and Russia takes the opportunity to become the most powerful country under the United States. Although it is far from the bear, it is also a big step. The idea is good, and it is really possible to succeed if it meets an ordinary person. But who is Li Qing? Even if there is no road, he can use a bulldozer to push a road for you. Putin was about to refuse, but was interrupted by Li Qing. Don't worry, Mr. President, I will find a way to make them agree. Putin. It was not easy for Putin to say anything after all, but he didn't believe that Li Qing could convince those people. After all, they didn't even give face to him as the president, and it was impossible for Li Qing to do it without any power in Russia. Since you are willing to try, I can't say anything, but I have to remind you that this is Russia. Putin looked up at Li Qing. Li Qing also knew what he meant, which was nothing more than prohibiting himself from using extreme means, but he didn't plan to use extreme means. There are many ways to make people surrender in this world, not just force. Of course, Li Qing smiled slightly, not caring about the threat in Putin's words. Okay, we're done. Come on, my friend, I've prepared a sumptuous dinner for you. The emperor's expression changed naturally, and even Li Qing secretly admired him. Oh? Then I'm going to taste the Don Sturgeon caviar. I haven't eaten it for a long time. Li Qing laughed and said jokingly. The dinner didn't last long. With Emperor Pu's gift, Li Qing got into his Rolls-Royce. As soon as the car drove out of the Kremlin, Li Qing suppressed the smile on his face. Before coming to the banquet, he knew that this meeting would not be too friendly. As he expected, Emperor Pu's idea of stalling for time was no longer concealed. He agreed to his request because he thought it was impossible to convince those politicians. And, there must be changes in Sakhalin that he doesn't know about, and he has to be on guard against this. Ah Sheng, go find out who is opposed to selling Sakhalin Island to me. Yes, brother. Dongxiu, Crow, I want you two to go to Sakhalin immediately. I want to know the changes in Sakhalin as soon as possible. Wu Wu agreed straightforwardly, but Zhang Dongxiu was a little hesitant. Brother, your safety. Li Qing waved his hand, I won't have any safety problems in Daimao. After speaking, he pointed to the black business car not far behind. Mad, you damn fly. Tian Yangshen looked at him fiercely and cursed, those people who have been following him are the KGB, the famous Maoist intelligence organization. Brother, do you want? Tian Yangshen made a gesture of cutting his throat. Li Qing shook his head, no, this is De Mao after all, and we haven't received our reward yet. Then Li Qing sneered, don't be angry, I've expected it since I got off the plane. Politicians really have a dark heart. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 698. The next day, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Brother, this is the information of the opponents. Even though he had been working in Daimao and Ermao for many years, it still took a lot of effort to obtain information about these people. Li Qing picked up the information on the table and flipped through it casually. Kilovsky, born in 1956, Vice Chairman of the Federal Council, has served. Trousky, born in 1960, President of the Senate of the National Defense Assembly, has served. Kovsky, born in 1958, Deputy Director of the Presidential Office, has served. It is no surprise that these people are all high-level people, and it is unexpected that so many people are against Li Qing. It seemed that this was not just a deliberate delaying tactic by Emperor Pu, but that many people really opposed it. Brother, do we have to convince these people one by one? Tian Yangshen frowned and looked at the thick pile of materials. This took a lot of time. Li Qing chuckled lightly, Ah Sheng, you have to look at the essence of a thing. Some of these opponents are considering national interests, and some are the instructions of the big sponsors behind the scenes. Patriotic. If these people were all patriotic, Mao Zedong wouldn't be brought down by the color revolution. If only one or two people object, Li Qing still believes that these people are doing it out of national interests. But with so many people standing up to oppose it, is there anything fishy in it? He ate all the ingredients. Then, who's behind these people? The identities of these people are easy to detect on the surface, but the relationships hidden underneath are not so easy to discover. Li Qing lowered his head and thought for a while. He started thinking about interests first. Whose cake was he tampering with when he wanted Sakhalin? The only thing he can think about now is Xiaozai, because Xiaozai has been coveting Sakhalin Island for many years. But in the small days, even if De Mao could win over some officials with money, it would not be so many. After all, the KGB was not a decoration. Apart from interests, there is also hatred. In recent times, there is only one force that has conflicts with itself and still has this kind of energy, and that is the Hebrew group of the beautiful country. They are also capable of doing things that make them feel disgusted. Although this matter has nothing to do with them on the surface. Hebrew, Li Qing said affirmatively. Tian Yangshen also nodded in realization, indicating that this was a possibility. Then what do we do? Li Qing curled his lips, what should I do? Haha, it seems that Hebrew doesn't know about KDO's upcoming GT, right? GT, Tian Yangshen was stunned for a moment after hearing this. Li Qing said nothing. Although the GT incident was a bit secretive, it was not something unpredictable for him who had memories of his previous life. Yes, we can make some trade with it. Li Qing chuckled. Since Emperor Pu is unkind, don't blame him for being unjust. I want to use this news to make a deal with the Hebrew Consortium in exchange for their approval of the private sale of Sakhalin Island. There is no comparison between Koshima and Sakhalin. As for the other opponents, according to his estimation, they were only a few and not worth worrying about at all. Big brother, great talent, Tian Yangshen gave a thumbs up and flattered him. Okay, I don't know how to flatter you, so stop flattering me. You're not a crow, so don't make it too hard on yourself. Li Qing waved his hand teasingly. By the way, Dongziu and Crow should have arrived at Sakhalin Island now, right? Tian Yangshen looked at his watch. It should be, almost done, brother. Wearing a dogskin hat and a mink coat, Crow shivered and followed Zhang Dongziu off the boat. Although the entire Sakhalin Island is much larger than Wanwan, it does not have an airport. The two of them and their men had no choice but to take a ship to get here. Shiu, why do I feel that when the sea breeze blows, my nose freezes into popsicles? Crow shrunk his hands and hunched his waist to avoid the wind behind Zhang Dongziu. Although the temperature on Sakhalin is a little higher than Daimao, of course the coldest time in the north can reach -40 degrees. Zhang Dongziu's face was filled with frost, and he turned to look at the crow. Don't feel it, it's really frozen into strips. Crow heard the sound and touched his nose. Bah, it's too cold today. Let's go, we have to rush to Korsakov. Zhang Dongziu ignored the crow's complaint. The disembarkation location was still quite a distance from the city of Korsakov, and they had to get to their residence before dark. Okay. The group of people got directly into the commercial vehicle that had been prepared and rushed towards the city of Korsakov. Korsakov is the closest city to Hokkaido, with a population of about 30,000. It is also considered a relatively large city in the entire Sakhalin Island. The most important thing is that there is Daimao Naval Base. It was almost dark when the group arrived, and they booked the Shenkov Hotel, the only 3-star hotel in Korsakov. Zhang Dongziu, Crow, and others got out of the car and looked at a row of dilapidated 3-story buildings. The signboards on them were still flickering due to poor contact. This is a 3-star hotel. If I build a 5-story hotel, will it be a 5-star hotel? Crow stepped forward and looked at the crumbling magnetic tiles. Let's go, I asked you to do something, not for enjoyment. Zhang Dongziu shook his head and led the people in first. The ringing of the pull-tab doorbell attracted the attention of the receptionist on the counter. Hello, how can I help you? The ant at the front desk asked cheerfully. Crow looked at the hairy auntie with disdain. We have booked more than 10 rooms in advance. Oh, it's you. Please show your ID. The auntie took the ID and started to register. Huh? You are Chinese, I thought you were just ordinary people. The auntie muttered softly. Zhang Dongziu turned her eyes and leaned on the front desk. Sister, are there many ordinary people here? The auntie smiled and lifted her hair, and said coquettishly, are they big? Yes, a lot. Some live here for more than half a year, and only move out when they find a place to live. Zhang Dongziu's heart was as clear as ice, and he was not moved by the auntie's beauty at all. Huh? Won't their visas expire? Seeing that Zhang Dongziu didn't react, the auntie knew that she had expressed her feelings wrongly, and her tone became cold. Huh, I don't know. Zhang Dongziu saw the situation and took out a few $100 bills and put them on the table with ease. Shua the ant took the money away with such force that she could not stop listening. Ahem, I used to check, but I don't know what happened recently. No one checks. The hotel's business is so good. If you hadn't booked in advance, there would be no rooms at all. The ant fumbled for the dollars in her pocket. Zhang Dongziu frowned. The sudden increase in the number of people who came to travel made him feel a little strange. Who would come to a place with a temperature of more than 30 degrees below zero to travel? Southern little potatoes. Sister, what's strange here recently? He calmly stuffed another $5, and the ant quickly put them away and looked around. He whispered, I shouldn't say this, but you are so sincere, I am embarrassed. A male friend of mine is a policeman. According to him, many soldiers have been transferred from the naval base recently, and the superiors also asked them not to check the documents of the people who came to travel, saying that they want to protect the development of the tourism industry. Zhang Dongzhou and Crow looked at each other and felt that things were getting more and more wrong. Damn it, it's so cold here, it's so unpleasant. As the doorbell rang, a group of people came in, both men and women, and they seemed to be a family. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 699. The ant curled her lips when she saw these young people. They are young people again. Let me tell you, don't look at the high quality of young people boasted on TV. In fact, they are not like that at all. These people have been living here for a while, and they make a lot of noise every day, which is very annoying. The ant at the front desk was also very dissatisfied with these people, but since they were tenants and she only worked part-time, she couldn't say anything. Crow frowned as he looked at this group of people, with a look of disgust on his face, and wanted to step forward to find trouble. Zhang Dongzhou quickly took Crow's arm and shook his head, don't forget what we are here to do. Crow could only endure the anger in his heart and gasped loudly. Already registered, here is your room card. The ant at the front desk handed the room card to Zhang Dongzhou. By the way, in the face of so many tips, I'll tell you a little secret. If you want to have fun at night, you can go to the beautiful bar not far from here. I work part-time there. The ant at the front desk winked at Zhang Dongzhou and others. Zhang Dongzhou grinned. Unexpectedly, Auntie's business was quite extensive. Okay, thank you. If we have a chance, we will go and have some fun. After saying that, he led a group of people to the elevator. Although there are only 3 floors here, there is an elevator. It is probably for the convenience of customers to carry their luggage. The elevator hasn't come down from upstairs yet. Just now, a group of young people in fancy clothes were standing in front of the elevator chatting. The 2 girls in front of Zhang Dongzhou were chatting. Hanako-chan, I heard that your aunt is also coming to live in Hueda, the name of Sakhalin Island when she was young. Yes, but they are going to Chico City, where the transportation is more convenient, the beggar girl whispered. That's great. Now that MRS Hua has been released, I will also tell my relatives in the south to come quickly. House prices are very low now. If there are too many people, it will be difficult to buy a house. Zhang Dongzhou listened for a moment with his ears perked up, but his face became increasingly ugly. He collected a lot of information through just a few words. Sakhalin has become a completely undefended place, especially for small-time people. The police don't even bother to check their documents. Now more and more small-time people choose to settle on Sakhalin Island. After all, they would rather leave their homes than be exposed to radiation. The group of people went back to their rooms. Wu Wu dropped his luggage and took off his heavy clothes before sitting next to Zhang Dongzhou. He just realized that Zhang Dongzhou looked bad. He must have guessed something? Dongzhou, what were you talking about in those little days? Is there any special situation? Crow didn't understand Japanese, so he had to ask Zhang Dongzhou. Zhang Dongzhou raised his head and glanced at him. I'm not sure yet, but I can already roughly guess what they want to do. What do you want to do? Crow asked curiously. Immigration, illegal immigration. I have to say that this approach is very useful. If 80% of the population of Sakhalin Island are small-time people, even if the New World gets Sakhalin Island, it will be a big trouble. Good guy. Insidious, so insidious, Crow's eyes immediately turned red upon hearing this, secretly cursing Xiaoxi's insidiousness. Zhang Dongzhou didn't say anything but just shook his head. Compared to what he did in his childhood, what De Mao did made him feel more disgusted. But he had a feeling in his heart that his eldest brother must have just known something, otherwise he and Crow would not have asked people to come to Sakhalin in advance for no reason to investigate. Raven, take a rest and then we'll go out for dinner. Then go check out that beautiful bar. Zhang Dongzhou thought for a while and said, the bar staff is mixed, but in this small town it is considered a place for information exchange, so maybe he can find out something. When Crow heard about it and went to the bar, his eyes lit up. Although he had Isabella, everyone has a love for beauty, so it was always okay not to take a look. I used to force you to go to the bar. I didn't expect Zhang Dongzhou, a thick-browed person like you, to be more proactive than me this time. Crow smiled and pointed at Zhang Dongzhou. Zhang Dongzhou rolled his eyes, he didn't want to say another word to Erbai. After dinner, Zhang Dongzhou and Wu Wu led the group towards the beauty bar. Korsakov is very quiet at night, with only the old street lamps shining brightly. There were very few pedestrians on the street, and few braved the severe cold of more than 10 degrees below zero to come out to have fun. Damn it, apart from smoked fish and pickles, isn't there any normal food here? Crow picked his teeth dissatisfied. Today's dinner is smoked fish, pickled cucumbers, big ribs, and vodka, a typical De Mao dinner. The sparse population and lack of daily necessities prevent Korsakov from entering other national cuisines. Okay, stop complaining. Maybe the bar has what you need, Zhang Dongzhou said with a smile. It's rare to see crows complaining about their food in recent years, but to be honest, De Mao's food is indeed a bit rough. The group of people arrived at the beauty bar at the end of the street. Seeing the tattered signboard, Crow had an ominous feeling. Even underground dance clubs in Xiangjiang are much better than this facade. Bang! Crow pushed open the door first, and unexpectedly a wave of hot air came with various sour and refreshing flavors. If I had to describe it, it would be a combination of body odor, turbid air, alcohol smell, and a sour smell that makes people head over. Crow and the others walked in holding their noses and waited for a while before they got used to the smell inside. The desertedness outside the street formed a sharp contrast with the hotness in the bar. The seats in the bar were full, and there were dancers who were not afraid of the cold dancing on the stage. There were female waiters holding wine glasses everywhere, constantly shuttling in the crowd, and even when facing men's groping, they just smiled ambiguously. This is simply a paradise of dreams. Crow glanced around and sighed. Zhang Dongzhou's eyes were not looking at these, but at the composition of the personnel. Although the waiters here are all big hairy people, the proportion of ordinary people among the guests is obviously more than that of big hairy people. Kong Nichwa. A waitress with obvious Slavic descent came forward to greet. Zhang Dongzhou frowned, we are not ordinary people. Sorry, the Asians who come here are all ordinary people, I thought. The waitress apologized quickly. It's okay, take us to a private room. Please follow me. Led by the waitress, several people came to a private room in the corner. Please bring me some wine. This is your tip. Zhang Dongzhou put $100 bill on the plate. Without waiting for the waitress to thank him, Zhang Dongzhou asked, are there many people here? The waitress smiled and said, at least I have been here for such a long time, and I have never seen Asians from other countries. You are the first group. Zhang Dongzhou waved his hand and asked her to get the wine. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 700. The lights flickered in the beauty bar. Perhaps to take care of the people of the day, the DJ also deliberately played the dance music of the day, which made some drunk men of the day dance happily. Crow also frowned, because he hated everything about the day. This hypocritical nation is still as annoying as ever. Seeing Zhang Dongzio's gloomy face, others did not dare to show excitement. They looked at the stage dully and took a sip of wine from time to time. Things are more serious than imagined. It seems that these big hairy people have become accustomed to coexisting with the day people. This is the terrible thing about the day people. In the powerful Tang dynasty, the Japanese wanted to kneel down and lick their feet. Facing the declining Qing dynasty, they showed their sharp claws again. Suddenly, a man in a suit came over enthusiastically, attracting the attention of Zhang Dongzio and others. After all, this is a bar. Who would dress so formally here, except... Hello, bosses. Japanese. You can speak the language of the great Mao, we can understand it. Zhang Dongzio looked at him curiously. The younger brothers brought here this time are all in the great Mao and the second Mao for a long time, so as to facilitate communication with the locals. The middle-aged man in a suit was happy. That's much better. Actually, my Japanese is not good. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Yevny, and I am a real estate agent. Zhang Dongzio raised his eyebrows. Good guy. He was right that only real estate agents and sales managers would wear suits in such occasions. What do you want to talk to us about? Do you need to buy a house? I have the best houses in Sakhalin, Yevny said and took out a stack of exquisite real estate brochures. Buy a house? How did you know we wanted to buy a house? Crow asked with a playful smile. Hee, you came to the bar so late. You must have just arrived in Sakhalin, and you came out of the hotel. Yevny smiled mysteriously. Are there many people who buy houses from you? Zhang Dongzio asked curiously. Many, more than you think. Zhang Dongzio's eyes turned, but I see your city is so small, how can there be so many houses? This is a business secret. Yevny smiled, and seeing that the other side had no intention of buying a house, he planned to get up and look for other targets. Wait. Although I don't buy a house, we can talk. Zhang Dongzio showed the US dollars in his hand, and Yevny sat down with a smile when he saw the US dollars. Sir, you ask, I will tell you everything I know. Your business secrets. Zhang Dongzio counted 5 and put them in his hand. This action made Yevny stunned for a moment, and hesitant appeared on his face. It's a business secret, but to be honest, it's not a big secret, otherwise he, a real estate agent, would not know it. Yevny said in a very low voice, it's not a secret, but ordinary people don't know it. The reason for so many houses is that some soldiers and civil servants who have settled in Sakhalin are about to evacuate, and they are in a hurry to sell their houses. Civil servants. Zhang Dongzio knew that the soldiers had taken action, but if the civil servants were planning to withdraw, it meant that Russia had really given up Sakhalin. Are there many ordinary people buying houses? Yevny thought for a while. Not a few, but most of them tend to buy large tracts of land. Land. Yes, that's land. And it is said that some wealthy people and high-ranking officials of ordinary people. Zhang Dongzio frowned. The ordinary people bought land on a large scale, and it seemed that they really wanted to move to Sakhalin in large numbers. Look, the old man in the front left bought 50 hectares of forest land from me. The middle-aged man near the bar bought hundreds of acres of land. Zhang Dongzio's face became more and more ugly as he listened to the real estate agent's words. Does the Russian government allow the sale of so much land? Yevny shrugged. Who knows, maybe, the government has other arrangements. Seeing that Zhang Dongzio had nothing else to ask, Yevny hurriedly got up. For him, time is money. After all, there is more than one real estate agent here. Zhang Dongzio cursed angrily, damn, Russia is really doing something in secret. Crow no longer wanted to watch the striptease. He also saw the shamelessness of politicians. Xiu'er, what should we do now? Zhang Dongzhou thought about it and sighed. Now they can't do anything. As long as the agreement is not signed, this place is still Russia's territory. They have no right to interfere in any affairs of Sakhalin Island. Get ready to go back to Moscow tomorrow morning. Big brother Li Qing needs to make the decision first for this kind of thing. They can't act on their own, so as not to ruin the big thing. To be honest, it took such a short time to find out, which made Zhang Dongzhou and Crow unexpected. This also reflects the recklessness of De Mao from the side, and he is not afraid of Li Qing knowing it at all. Even if Li Qing knew it, he couldn't do anything for the time being. After all, Sakhalin Island has not been traded yet, and De Mao still has the sovereignty of Sakhalin Island. At this time, Li Qing was planning to try to contact the Hebrew consortium hidden in the shadow of Mao. What he didn't expect was that the Hebrew consortium actually took the lead in throwing out an olive branch. Ike called. Ike. Haha, Qing, thank you for your tip, which made us aware of the abnormality of K Island. Ike's hearty laughter came from the phone, and he seemed to be in a good mood. Haha, I'm doing it for your sake. This matter actually has nothing to do with me. Li Qing pointedly said that he didn't want Ike to think that this favor was his favor to Hebrew. Hey, I know, Ike laughed. This time he was praised by the upper management of the Hebrew consortium, and he also knew that Li Qing was selling his favor. I won't say it anymore, I'll be in the fire, and I'll be in the water, Ike said with a non-serious smile. But then he lowered his voice and whispered, the senior leaders in the organization want to meet you and thank you in person. Li Qing's eyes turned, and he instantly thought that this was the Hebrew consortium's overture to him. I'm in Damao now, and there are always flies around me. It's not very convenient to meet. Ike on the opposite side was silent for a while. Although the Hebrew consortium was powerful, after the purge after Emperor Pu came to power, it was no longer what it used to be. He couldn't guarantee the confidentiality of the meeting. In this way, an hour later, a communication company's number will call you. Remember to pick up. Ike thought for a while and asked. Well, don't worry. Li Qing indeed sighed secretly in his heart, as expected of the Hebrew consortium, its control over communications is indeed strong. He feels that there shouldn't be much problem in exchanging the news about the Kojima GT for the approval of those politicians on the Sakhalin issue.